Right. We took a look at that back and forth that happened where India completely destroyed the fakery and lies and this false propaganda that Pakistan has built since Operation Sindoor that struck Pakistan at its heart. Joining me on the telecast is Ambassador Ajay Bisaria. He is the former Indian High Commissioner to Pakistan. Ambassador Bisaria, thank you very much for joining us on Newsx. And of course, the first big question about these lies that continue to be perpetrated by Pakistan. Shehbaz Sharif was at the UNGA, that 45-minute speech. I think there was a befitting response that was given by Petal Gahlot, the diplomat from India, spoke about if Pakistan believes that destroyed runways and burnt out hangars look like victory, then Pakistan can enjoy it. Do you think it's amply clear to the world about how the military operation of India was able to strike Pakistan at its heart?
Yes, I think it has been amply clear to the world. A lot of the information is in the public domain. It can easily be verified by publicly available imagery, and global military experts have pronounced on it. So there's very little doubt. But, I think the way to contextualize Shehbaz Sharif's speech and the response from India is that this is an annual ritual. Twice a year, once at the UNGA and the other time at the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva, we have Pakistan parade many lies, its claims on Kashmir and so on. And India normally, through a junior diplomat, responds, facts checks, corrects Pakistan. And this was no different this time. Except that, some of the claims made by Shehbaz Sharif and some of the statements were quite bizarre. And a lot of people within Pakistan are also criticizing them. For instance, there's a Freudian slip there. If you say that we acted against terrorists and therefore they couldn't go up and blow things up in New York, and that's why the rest of the world is safe. The whole point is that the world knows that Pakistan is a nursery of terrorism, has been a university of terrorism, and these guys have been going and blowing up things. The only point we're making is Pakistan hasn't done enough, because there are still terrorists at loose who's struck in Pahalgam and elsewhere. So Pakistan needs to do a lot more than it is doing now, is the whole point. But I think this is a annual charade, and the world sees through it, and it isn't really convincing anyone except repeating a lie to a domestic audience for propaganda.
The highlight of the Pakistani Prime Minister and the self-proclaimed, self-declared Field Marshal Asim Munir is, of course, the whining and dining that they have been doing with President Trump in White House during their visit for the UNGA on the sidelines. How does this impact India-US relations, and why do you think there is such coziness that has been reinitiated by US President Donald Trump with Pakistan?
Well, what we saw at the White House is really a continuation of what has been going on this summer. This was the second visit by Asim Munir to the Oval Office. The first time he went alone. This time, for credibility, he took along his assistant, Shehbaz Sharif, because the Pakistan army is losing credibility within Pakistan if it is running the US relationship on its own. So there's a set of transactions that are going on there. And what you saw on displays by Shehbaz Sharif at his UN address was two levels of sycophancy. The first level of sycophancy is for Asim Munir, because don't forget that a couple of years ago, the Pakistan army got in the Sharif brothers into power while by every account, it was Imran Khan that was going to win by rigged elections. So they're grateful and they are beholden to the army for power. The second level of sycophancy was for Donald Trump, because there is a set of transactions that the army has set up on crypto, on critical minerals, a bit on counterterrorism, which now it wants the Pakistan civilians to say that, yes, we are on board with the Pakistan army. So I don't think from India's point of view, it's a cause for losing sleep. But we have a bone to pick with the Americans to tell them that their treatment of Pakistan, and particularly after the summer war between India and Pakistan, is not something that India accepts as reasonable policy between two strategic partners, and also to warn the Americans that this story will not last, because Pakistan has a strong history of seducing US administrations in the first year and then disappointing them as they go forward.
Right. You know, there are two significant developments that have taken place in the last 2 weeks. One is America sanctioning the Chabahar port that hugely impacts India. And second is United States of America demanding that the Bagram airbase be handed back to the United States of America. How important does America think is the potential involvement of Pakistan in dealing with both these issues?
Well, certainly Pakistan is a factor in the policy for CENTCOM, which is the Central Command of the United States, which manages the policy in what they call the AFPAC region in Central Asia, Iran, and so forth. And Pakistan's role for Iran is important for the US. Apart from everything else, there may be discussions going on about basing rights for US air assets within Pakistan. And the Bagram air base also fits into that piece. But there is a tension there, which we must watch, which will probably express itself as we go forward, which is that while Trump has said that he would like to get the Bagram air base, he's blaming Biden for having lost it, and use it as a means of monitoring Chinese behavior and Chinese nuclear sites and so on. The Pakistanis play along with this, but they also tell the Chinese, who are their primary godfathers, that they will not go beyond a point with the Americans. So with China, they have signed a statement which says that China, Russia, Pakistan criticize or will not like any external power to be relevant within Afghanistan, and along with Afghanistan pushing back. So Pakistan is trying to play both sides, and at some point, when the US interests clash with Chinese interests, I think Pakistan will have a big problem on its plate.
And what do you think should India's involvement be with regards to Afghanistan, with regards to Chabahar port, and also, you know, the targeting that America has done on Iran, whether it is about the UN sanctions on Iran for building nuclear weapons and enrichment of uranium, or for that matter, with Afghanistan, where India has been providing humanitarian aid, other development projects to rebuild Afghanistan and for the welfare of their people?
Well, I think there are two distinct processes, and what we are seeing in Iran is something part of a larger Western play in Iran, because it is an attempt to sanction Iran, giving it deadlines and asking it to curb its nuclear program, and the Europeans are also involved in that play. So I think that goes separately. It affects India because it affects Chabahar port. It affects India's potential import of Iranian oil, because the sanctions and secondary sanctions affect India. But India does and should maintain its strategic autonomy in dealing with Iran the way it does. On Afghanistan, again, this is a different play. India has a pragmatic approach of gradual engagement with the Taliban, certainly not recognition, but engagement. And there, perhaps India would coordinate its positions with other players. But again, for India, India's a close neighbor of Afghanistan. Afghanistan is in the region. So I think both these, India would have perhaps conversations with the United States, but India would do what is in its interest, which is continue dealing with both these powers.
Right, and also, in just a few hours, the Indian Foreign Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, is going to be giving his UNGA speech at the General Assembly. What can be expected from that speech?
Well, I thought he's already given spoken at the UNGA, but I would say that India's position at the UNGA is fairly clear. We continue to talk about our own path of progress, our own dealing with the global South, our own. We call out the hypocrisy of the West, and we continue to call out Pakistan's terrorism. And I think that's what he has done and continues to do in all his engagements that in New York, which is whether it's the G20 foreign ministers or the BRICS foreign ministers or in his bilateral conversations. I think he will continue to promote and talk about India's, strategic autonomy and India's very specific worldview, which is trying to build bridges between the East and the West.
All right. Thank you so much, Ambassador Ajay Bisaria, for joining us on Newsx and sharing your views.
Thank you.